Hello there. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Richview Expressway. This is another one of these short expressways that had a very short shelf life in Toronto's highway expansion plans. So, let's get into the video. The origins of the Richview Expressway is like all of Toronto's others, with the first idea showing up in the early 1940s. Specifically as part of the 1943 Highway Plan, which proposed a series of highways throughout Toronto and its surrounding towns. In the case of the Richview Expressway specifically, the original idea was a highway originating at what is today the interchange of highways 401, 427, and Eglinton Avenue West. It would then follow Eglinton West to Keele Street before jogging north to the now disused Beltline Railway corridor. It would then follow what is today the Beltline Trail into the Don Valley before heading south to connect with what was at the time called the Lakeshore Expressway, but we know it better as the Gardiner Expressway today. Those of you from Toronto will immediately recognize the stretch of highway through the Don Valley as the Don Valley Parkway. This 1943 plan, however, was never built, and the city's rapid suburbanization in the wake of World War II meant that a new plan would be needed to meet the city's new and rapidly growing commuter needs. Into the 1950s, the province of Ontario would begin construction of its own network of highways, notably the Toronto-Barrie Highway, now called Highway 400, and the Queen Elizabeth Expressway, or QEW for short. These highways, along with the others that were planned, would either bypass the city of Toronto or end at the boundaries with the newly established Metropolitan Toronto, continuing them into the city as municipally owned expressways. One of these municipally owned expressways would be the Richview Expressway, which was meant to be an eastern extension of Highway 403 into Metro Toronto, connecting Highway 427 to Highway 400. The Richview Expressway was to be a constituent part in a greater network that would allow drivers to drive from the western edge of Toronto to the eastern edge while avoiding the Gardiner Expressway to the south and Highway 401 to the north. This network would include the Richview Expressway, an extension of Highway 400, the Crosstown Expressway, the Don Valley Parkway, and the Scarborough Expressway. By 1969, Metro Toronto had acquired all the land necessary to build the highway in Etobicoke, though the land in York was still required. The overall plan would be for the entire Richview corridor to be 10 lanes wide, with 4 lanes dedicated to Eglinton Avenue and the remaining 6 for the expressway. While I can't find any drawings of this layout, I imagine the 6-lane expressway would run in a trench with the 4-lane Eglinton Avenue running alongside, either off to one side or with 2 lanes on each side of the highway. This is how the Spadina Expressway was planned to run south of Bloor Street. The closest real-world equivalent would be something like US Route 101 through downtown Los Angeles. However, I cannot say for certain if this is what it would have actually looked like. The Richview Expressway was a low-priority route, and so its construction wasn't planned to start until sometime in the 90s, likely alongside the Crosstown Expressway, which had a planned start date of 1995. The first plan for the highway would feature interchanges at every major road, starting at a large interchange with highways 401, 403, and 427, and then running east with an interchange at Martin Grove, Kipling, Islington, Royal York, Scarlett, and Jane Street before linking up to Highway 400. This design would see a revision, however, and in the 1970s it seemed nearly every interchange was cut, with the only ones remaining being the connections to the highways 400, 401, 403, and 427, as well as at Martin Grove Road and the Mount Dennis area. This design change was likely caused by the growing opposition to Metro Toronto's expressway plan. The Richview Expressway would not be spared from this war being fought in other parts of the city, and local residents would begin opposing the planned expressway through central Etobicoke. The design change no doubt did the plan no favors, as now it would have practically no local utility, so even local car owners had nothing to gain from the expressway at this point. At this point, the Richview Expressway was more a bypass connecting highways 403 and 427 to Highway 400, with nothing else happening in between. The end of the Richview Expressway plan would come swiftly. Firstly, in the early 1970s, when the province of Ontario decided to terminate Highway 403 at the planned Highway 410 in Mississauga instead of at the border of Metro Toronto. Construction on this would start in 1977. By 1997, Highway 403 would connect to Highway 401 and the 410, but this would be in Mississauga and not in Toronto. This would mean the Richview would no longer be an extension of Highway 403 and would now only connect to Highways 401 and 427. The final blow would come in 1975 when the planned extension of Highway 400 was cancelled in favor of constructing an arterial road from Jane Street to Weston Road, today's Black Creek Drive. With this, the Richview Expressway now had nowhere to go. Its western terminus still made some sense as it still connected to Highways 401 and 427, but it no longer had an eastern terminus. It would make no sense to build the highway and then just dump everybody onto Eglinton Avenue at Black Creek. Without the Highway 400 extension, there would be no way to connect the Richview Expressway to the Crosstown Expressway, and this would be an insurmountable gap. With the Highway 400 extension cancelled and Highway 403 cut back to Highway 410, the Richview Expressway project was quietly cancelled. Since the highway was a low priority project, land acquisition was most of what was done on the project. Now with the project cancelled, Metro Toronto had a large stretch of empty land along Eglinton Avenue and nothing at the moment to do with it. Metro Toronto would designate it as a transportation corridor and would study expanding Eglinton Avenue to 6 lanes and using a portion of the free land for public transit. It's here we find some interesting drawings of an LRT line running down the middle of Eglinton Avenue on an elevated structure. I'm not sure if this was ever some kind of serious proposal or if it was just a proof of concept of what could be done along Eglinton Avenue. It's also interesting to note the use of CLRV cars, which would put the date of this drawing at around the same time as the Scarborough and Etobicoke RTs were being planned. If this was a serious proposal, I can't quite figure out what the route could have been beyond an alternate reality where the Eglinton Crosstown was built in the 80s, but that's a discussion for another time. Either way, not much would happen along this corridor for the time being. The proposal to expand Eglinton Avenue to 6 lanes would meet fierce opposition, as local residents thought it as a backdoor way to turn Eglinton Avenue into the Richview Expressway. The last mention of this would come in 1994 when Metro Toronto would propose the expansion of Eglinton Avenue to 6 lanes again, but local opposition once again thwarted this proposal and it would never come up again. After the city's amalgamation in 1998, the lands formerly set aside for the Richview Expressway would come under ownership of the City of Toronto. The final proposal for the vacant expressway land would be for use as part of the Eglinton Crosstown LRT line, which proposed using the land for the western portion of the line between Royal York and Martin Grove. This wouldn't happen though, as amidst the chaos of the Transit City project's cancellation, a portion of the land would be declared surplus and sold off for development in 2010, with construction of new housing beginning in 2013. There are some that see the selling of this land as an intentional act of sabotage against the Eglinton Crosstown LRT project, as it was planned to use the once vacant land. While the western extension of the crosstown is now under construction, it is being built underground for significantly more money, as part of its original planned corridor has since been developed over. The Richview Expressway, like the Crosstown Expressway, may seem like a minor project, but it was in fact a small piece of a much greater whole. That whole being a crosstown expressway network cutting across the middle of the city. It, like the crosstown, was meant to act as a link between other highways, in this case linking highways 401, 403, and 427 to Highway 400. However, it would come undone with the cancellation of the Highway 400 extension. Like every other highway in Toronto, the Richview was planned at a time of rapid suburbanization, but like the other highways, it would meet stiff opposition from local residents who weren't keen on the idea of having a highway blow through their neighborhood, or worse, their home. Much like the Crosstown Expressway though, a small portion of the Richview Expressway was technically built. That being Eglinton Avenue west of Martin Grove Road, where Eglinton Avenue takes on a more highway-like appearance. To anyone who has been on this short stretch of road, you would know this as the on and off ramps from Highway 401 and Highway 427. This short stretch of road is the one part of the Richview Expressway built, meant to connect the expressway to the aforementioned highways and Highway 403. It's actually crazy to think this interchange is missing 2 highways, so it could have been even crazier. But with that, I will end this video here. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it and want to see more like it, please hit that subscribe button because there are more videos like it on the channel and there are more videos like it on the way. If there's anything you want to say about the Richview Expressway, don't be afraid to do so in the comment section down below. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.